It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 16th day of July, 2021, coming to you from Central Virginia, right outside of Lynchburg, Bedford County. And a good morning to Gretchen, Jason, and Katie. And yes, Katie, I know where Martin is. As a matter of fact, breaking news from the Golden Horizon. It has sailed 24 hours late. The Golden Horizon, a tall sailing ship operating for Tradewind Voyages, was actually arrested yesterday in Dover, in the UK, according to multiple reports, at the request of Star Clipper, a Monaco-based cruise operator. The ship had originally been designed and built at Brodasplit for Star Clippers, which did not take delivery of the vessel. Court actions followed, awarding Star Clippers and owner Michael Kraft 13 million euro in damages, according to the Croatian news report. Meanwhile, the ship found a new home operating for startup company Tradewind Voyages, and they set up the voyage that was supposed to start yesterday with travel folks on board, with travel agents. Star Clippers advised Brodasplit Group to settle its debt, after which the ship will be released, the Star Clipper said in a prepared statement yesterday. The ship owner will need to pay roughly 7 million euro to release the ship, according to one report at the scene. Now, Tradewind Voyages later posted that there are no outstanding payments. Everything has been settled. The ship is continuing her voyages as planned. But it did not sail yesterday as planned. However, it has just sailed this morning. So apparently it's now a dead issue. It's been settled and it is now sailing somewhere. I don't know any details yet as to what's going to happen with the itinerary, how it's going to possibly change the schedule. Who knows? And yes, Cruise Amigo Martin is on board. So on Sunday on the Cruise Amigos, I guarantee you that will be one of the topics of discussion. So we'll see how that goes. And then next week, as it supposedly opens up to paid passengers, our friend and part-time correspondent to Chillie's Cruises, Janine Williamson, will be on board. And we're going to do a live stream from there as well. So we're going to be getting a lot of information on the Golden Horizon. I'm just fascinated by the tall ships, the masted schooners. I would love to go on one. I've never been on one, but that's definitely on my bucket list. All right. Because of the last 2 days, we had 2 wonderful days with shows, with JJ Cruise on Wednesday with Jared and Jordan. Was just a delightful show, I thought. And then yesterday, of course, was Sue Bryan, who is lovely as always, the cruise editor of the Sunday Times. I'll get her title right eventually. So I've been stuffing news stories away forever, so I got a bunch to catch up on today. But first, we got to look at the weather. 2 Pacific storms to watch. Nothing in the Atlantic, nothing at all. But we got 2 in the Pacific, as we had yesterday. As of 2 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, so that would have been 6 a.m. this morning, Hurricane Felicia is located about 900 miles southwest of Baja, California, moving toward the west at 9 miles an hour. So its surface speed has slowed down considerably. A general west by southwest motion is expected over the next 24 hours, with a turn back to the west expected over the weekend. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 115 miles an hour with higher gusts. So Felicia is now a Category 3 hurricane. And this should be followed by weakening gradually from now through the weekend. It's not expected to get any stronger than the Category 3. It also is not expected to interact with land. So it's going to hurricane away out there to nowhere. Now, the other one, the X down here that's closer into Mexico, is a broad area of low pressure located several hundred miles south of the coast of southern Mexico. It's producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for gradual development over the next several days, and a tropical depression is likely to form over the weekend and move westward or west-northwestern westward at about 15 miles an hour, a few hundred miles offshore of the southwest coast of Mexico. Now, formation percentages, they're saying 80% for formation, further formation in the next 48 hours, 90% for the next 5 days. So we could possibly have another hurricane out there, but again, not going to land. It's 2 in a row out in the Pacific. Don't get me wrong, I'm tickled pink, but 2 storms, possibly a second hurricane in the Pacific at the same time, and thankfully none of them are impacting land. But gotta watch them just in case, because things strange can happen. All right, the lead story for today is the third Carnival ship sailing. The third Carnival ship is less than a month. I said that wrong. The third Carnival ship in less than a month has returned to service. Carnival Breeze, Galveston, departed Galveston yesterday afternoon for a 4-night cruise. The ship will sail at around 70% capacity with 95% guests vaccinated, leaving 5% open to children and adults who cannot receive the vaccine. The 5% sailing unvaccinated were placed on an exemption list. Carnival has been the #1 cruise operator from Galveston and the only cruise operator with 3 year-round ships at the port. Carnival Vista, Carnival Breeze, and Carnival Dream operate 150 voyages annually from Galveston, carrying about 750,000 passengers. So they are important to the Galveston economy. What started the protests in Cuba? Anti-government protests across Cuba erupted in the province where Fidel Castro is buried. The pandemic just added to the Cuban frustration with the lack of food and resources that have been present for years. And seems to be the culprits of what's going on now. Tourism basically dried up, along with the hard currency it provided after former President Trump reinstated the ban travel to Cuba. And of course, that did away with the cruise ships, which had started sailing into Cuba, and it was doing quite well with the Cuban folks making some money for a change independently. Mismanagement of the island's state-run economy, which has been under a U.S. embargo since 1962, since Cuba's GDP crashing by 11% last year. It's worse showing since the former Soviet Union stopped subsidies in the early 1990s. Chronic power cuts and shortages of food and medicines have been more acute, while the nearly 250,000 people who have had the coronavirus have had to seek treatment from healthcare system that's literally on the verge of collapse. Vaccinations have been scarce since the government decided not to participate in COVAX sharing program, claiming that it's developing its own shots. Well, if you're developing your own, why haven't your people gotten any vaccinations yet, Cuba? Take what's being offered. Good heavens, get the stuff into people's arms. So far, since the protests broke out, at least one person has died, according to local reports. The government shut down the internet and phone lines after the first protests last weekend. Information regarding the results and arrests is hard to find, but estimates ranging from arrests between 200 and 5,000. Who knows? Such protests across Cuba were previously unseen in the 60 years of Castro rule. Of course, he'd just kill them if they protested. What should the Biden administration be doing in Cuba? If you got any thoughts of it, drop a line in comments or in chat. I'd just like to know what anybody's thoughts are on what the Biden administration should do. All right, breaking news yesterday. The government of Canada has decided to end its ban on cruise ships starting November 2021. So it's not going to affect Alaska sailing season 2021. It'll be over. But clearly, 2022 in Alaska will be back to normal. The announcement came from the Minister of Transport, the Honorable Omar Alghabra. It's good news, not just operations in Canada, but also scheduled cruises that depart from the U.S. The cruise industry in Canada represents more than $4 billion annual input directly and indirectly. It also generates approximately 30,000 jobs and is an important factor for tourism. Major ports in Vancouver and Montreal will be able to start making plans to welcome back ships, along with all the cruise lines that have been heavily impacted over the past year. This also means that the Alaska Tourism Restoration Act, that allows cruise ships to temporarily bypass the need to call in Canada to visit Alaska, will not be needed. Cruise ships were not previously allowed to sail on Alaska due to the Passenger Vessel Services Act, making cruise ships have to visit a foreign port when departing from the U.S. Now, here's another one, folks, for your opinion. Is it time for the U.S. to do away with the antiquated Passenger Vessel Services Act? Remember, that came back from 1834 originally. And that was the reason that you had to, if you're going to any U.S. port, you had to go to another country before you could come back to that U.S. port or another U.S. port. And that was not just for Alaska, but it clearly, that was part of it. So anyway, what do we do with that stupid Passenger Vessel Services Act? Do we continue on like we have forever? Or do we try to get that changed as well and make the Alaska Tourism Restoration Act a permanent fixture? We'll see. All right. Serious flooding in Western Europe, including Liège, Belgium. Desperately trying to escape flooding. You can see a picture of that. After heavy rains yesterday, 100 people have lost their lives in Germany's worst mass loss of life in years. There's 1,300 people missing south of Cologne. So these numbers are going to get awful. Mobile phone networks collapsed in some regions. Entire towns and villages lay in ruins after swollen rivers swept through. So they're just having some massive flooding in Europe. Luxury cruise operator Crystal Cruises will start sailing from Boston in August and New York in September. Crystal Symphony will be the second ship to start operations after Crystal Cruises sailed from the Bahamas with Crystal Serenity. Crystal Symphony will have Boston and New York as home ports, sailing from New York's Manhattan Cruise Terminal and Flynn Cruise Port. She will be the first vessel to start operations on the northern east coast of the United States since the industry paused operations more than 16 months ago. Guests who want to sail on Crystal Symphony will be able to do so starting August 22nd, when the vessel will sail on the first of 4 voyages from Flynn Cruise Port in Boston. The 7-day cruises will feature 2 full days at sea and 2 nights in Bermuda, while guests can relax and enjoy the vessel during some days at sea on the other end. After the first 4 initial voyages, the vessel will start operations from New York's Manhattan Cruise Terminal on September 24th, sailing every Friday for a set of 9 voyages featuring a spectacular New York sail away. And if you've never sailed out of New York, you ought to do it once. It is spectacular. As the cruise industry slowly comes back to operations, Crystal Cruises has decided to make the East Coast Bermuda cruises available to guests who have been fully vaccinated against COVID only. The company also operates under its Crystal Clean protocols with increased sanitation, capacity controls, social distancing on board, contactless dining, decreased capacity, and increased health monitoring of all guests and crew. Here's one that kind of might be a shocker to you. The Washington Monument started readmitting visitors today, ending a 6-month COVID closure. Tickets are only available online. They're released daily at 10 a.m. for visits the following day. Masks are required for all, vaccinated or not. So if you want to go to see the Washington Monument, wear your mask. And don't complain about it. If you don't want to wear your mask, you don't want to get vaccinated, don't go. Italy is banning large cruise ships from sailing into Venice after declaring the city's lagoon a national monument. This goes into effect August the 1st. The city decided this after mounting pressure from activist groups and not in the least from UNESCO, the World Heritage Organization. Cruise ships will now need to be rerouted to nearby port of Porto Marghera, a little further down from Venice. However, that could prove more complicated than it seems. Pressure has been mounting for years on the Italian government to take action against the arrival of large cruise ships. Critics have stated that the ships do irreparable damage to the environment and the foundations of the city. Not only that, many feel the large cruise ships are an eyesore in the skyline of the city. Several incidents with accidents involving cruise ships have not done the cruise companies any favors. For now, cruise ships that are larger than 25,000 tons, longer than 180 meters, and higher than 35 meters are banned from the historical part of town and will need to sail to Porto Marghera, which is only a few miles away. Previously, the ban was only in effect for ships over 100,000 tons, although that was on hold until a new terminal was built. How Venice and Porto Marghera plan to accommodate ships for the time being remains a question unanswered. The Gaideka Channel, the main channel in Venice, will need to be deepened to give ships access to the alternative port, and a new cruise terminal is only in the bidding stage. It could very well mean that more cancellation or cruise lines abandoning Venice altogether could be in the works. Sad but true, but apparently, even though they have an alternative, this Porto Marghera, apparently the cruise ships still have to go right through one of the canals in Venice to get to the Porto Marghera. So it's still going to cause the problems that some of the people have been complaining about, seems to me. But that we'll have more on eventually. Shown here in dry dock in Marseille, France, Carnival Dream is getting the new paint job. Carnival Dream is the latest Carnival cruise line to be adorned with the new hull design, joining Carnival Magic, Carnival Glory, and Carnival Mardi Gras. So the Dream is going to have its new paint job when she comes out of dry dock next week. For the first time, Seabourn Ovation will cruise the Caribbean, starting with 3 11-day voyages round trip from Miami in November and December 2021. The ship will visit Caribbean destinations including San Juan, the hidden harbors of Guadalupe and Jos Van Dyke, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, and more. Departure dates include November 18th and 29th and December 10th. Following the Caribbean voyages, the ship will explore the Panama Canal and Central America between December and March. Beginning January 30th, Seabourn Ovation will set sail to Central America with 4 voyages round trip from Miami, calling in Mexico, Costa Rica, Belize, and Panama. These voyages will also include a partial transit of the canal, giving guests a great opportunity to visit this modern marvel in true luxury. If those of you that have never sailed on Seabourn, and I'm one that has not, it's kind of a high-end luxury cruise line. So, but it's available now, sure enough. The CDC has approved 13 ships for simulated voyages, also known as test cruises, with ships completing a test voyage successfully. Each vessel is then issued a conditional sailing order certificate, allowing it to sail from U.S. home ports with less than 95% of guests aboard being vaccinated. Ships that are approved for test cruises but not yet have the certificate are Balm of Paradise Grand Classica, Carnival Cruise Line Carnival Ecstasy, Disney Dream, Disney Fantasy, MSC Meraviglia, and the following from Royal Caribbean: Allure, Independence, Mariner, Oasis, Odyssey, Ovation, Serenade, and Symphony. So you're going to be hearing a lot about test cruises over the next probably 45 days or so. Those of you that signed up as volunteers are probably going to get called on, I would say. So, acknowledging that it might make some people unhappy, Carnival Cruise Line brand ambassador announced a new smoking policy to be put into effect for most of the ships as they return to service. It will mean that upon boarding, guests will not be permitted to smoke anywhere on board until after the refueling process is complete. Given that smoking is already prohibited on all outdoor decks during the bunkering process, this means that guests will not be able to smoke anywhere on board for several hours. Held went on to explain that the change was being made in part in conjunction with the newly implemented muster drill policies. With the casino being used as one of the muster drill stations on board, people will have to go there in order to check in. As for the outdoor smoking area, as you can imagine, he said, if you're smoking on an open deck and a stray cigarette or some hot ash went overboard and into where you were refueling, the result would be catastrophic. So they're thinking about the folks, the non-smokers that have to go to the casino to check in after their electronic monitoring muster drill. And then, of course, it makes sense that while they're fueling the thing, you don't want any chance of a spark getting down toward the fuel. So the folks that were running down to the casino bar to smoke can't do it. A replica of the Statue of Liberty was unveiled yesterday at Résidence des Français, the Washington residence of Ambassador Philippe Etienne, France, who gave the Statue of Liberty as a gift of friendship in 1885, calls this Washington, D.C.'s own Statue of Liberty. Secretary of State Tony Blinken and French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian took part in the Bastille Day ceremony, which was followed by a champagne reception. So glad that they drank champagne on Lady Liberty. The Smithsonian says a $200 million donation from Jeff Bezos is the institution's largest since the founding gift of James Smithson in 1846. $70 million will go to renovating the National Air and Space Museum. $130 million will launch a new education center there. I wonder how long it's going to take for it to become the Smithsonian Institute's Bezos Space Exploration Center or Amazon's National Air and Space Museum. Or am I a cynic? Yeah, probably am. All right, let's go see what else has been going on over in the chat room. My goodness, there's a lot of chatting going on. Good heavens, I'll never catch up. We said hello to Katie and Jason and Gretchen. Tom's late. Gretchen says, hot air Tom, by the way. I don't know if I haven't talked to hot air Tom here today. Maybe I did get one comment from him on something earlier. Yeah, I probably did. Nikki's with us down there in Jacksonville. Gretchen says 7 million euro doesn't go as far as it used to. Katie says it's on her bucket list too. Yeah, I want to do one of those. I'm fascinated. My brother-in-law, Gene, for years he's a big knot tire with the kind of knots that they use on the ropes on schooners. So he was on a lot of the old replica ships, has sailed on them, has worked on them. He's actually written a book about knots. But I must admit, I would go on one if I had the chance. Jason says he's ready to sail to Cuba. Man, I am too. That was one that I got canceled out. Absolutely would like to see that. All right, let's see. On my bucket list too. Yeah, Jason said he missed his chance. I was going and then it got canceled. That was one that got canceled last fall. Did you ride in a 57 Chevy? I used to own a 63 Chevy. That was close enough. Nikki says, I'd love to go to Cuba. Maybe the rules were changed. Katie, you were smart to go when you had the chance. Emily's with us up in New York. She says, good morning, Chillie and gang. No, took part in a bus tour. It was so hot. I did see all the cars and got a picture next to one. That was cool. That's Katie. Katie's still up there in Martha's Vineyard. Emily says she's only working 3 days next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Jason says, Emily, are you okay? I keep hearing all this bad stuff happening up in New York. Emily says she's a little tired today. She stayed up watching the Upshaws and Netflix. So funny. I went to bed at 5 a.m. Well, I'm up before then. 1834, laugh out loud. What a joke. Get rid of it for good. Bonnie's with us. See what Bonnie has to say. No American should spend a cent in Cuba. It's still a communist country. So many of my neighbors in South Florida were Cuban originally and came to the U.S. to be free. Biden is in a tough spot. Yeah, and that's an interesting point. I mean, I know there are a lot of, this is a hot button issue. I'd like to go just because I was not able to go before. And I understand if you're spending money that's going in back into the awful government. So I understand the point. But boy, I sure liked it when we had the cruises going in there. Dorsey is with us. She says hi to everyone. And everybody's just done back and forth, saying good morning to everybody. Gretchen's scheduled to sail out of Manhattan September 22. Awesome. I tell you what, that was one of my groups. We sailed out of New York and went north to Halifax and St. John's, New Brunswick. And it was a terrific cruise. Got to see, that was the first time I got to see a whale at sea, as a matter of fact. But it's fabulous to sail out of New York. That's just, you definitely want to be on the upper deck for that one. It is awesome. Gretchen, he got locked in last night. Bonnie says, I agree. The sail away from New York City, it's magnificent seeing the Statue of Liberty and going under the Verrazano Bridge. It's cool. I loved it. Gretchen says she's counting on it. Hope all is a go by then. Enjoy your day off, Emily. Cruise ships are damaging Venice. I love seeing Venice. You know, I was supposed to, that was part of my cancellation because of this. You know, I was supposed to be in Venice next month, but I'm not going to be able to do it. And Emily says that Tony Lolita Locust beat me on the Italy's port being a national monument. Yeah, because I basically did no news for 2 days. I mean, other than, major things because of the interview. So yeah, admittedly, to a lot of today's stories are older news just because I needed to get it off my desk. Emily said her sister had a good time in Italy. I can fly you to Ohio to watch Jean-Claude. He couldn't get in his crate to fly. Long story. He had to spend the week in Youngstown while I was in Florida. Amy's with us. Just get me on any ship. I agree. Boy, I'd love to. I went twice with a school group and had a wonderful time. Love Italy and its people and food. Yeah, the food's definitely one of the things. My second wife was an Italian and was a wonderful cook. I mean, a wonderful cook. I don't have a whole lot to say good about her, about anything else, but she was a fabulous cook. Old school Italian cooking. And Chillie got what he wanted, no smoking in the casino. Yeah, but that's just for while they're refueling. And that's, when it bothered me was to be constantly walking through there. Although I do see a drawback to them taking the casino bar out that I didn't consider. And that is that, number one, the smokers are going to be in there pretty heavy. And number two, everybody's going to want to drink and the bar's gone. They're not equipped to really service masses of people with drinks. So, yeah, I can see where that can cause a problem. I'm not sure that there's a real good answer. Maybe keep the casino bar then and make smoking only on one end. And thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Gretchen, for the donations. I always appreciate that, guys. Jason says, Katie, I've only done Carnival so far, booked the Celebrity Equinox July 25th. Very excited. We're excited for you too, because we're going to be talking to you while you're on that sucker. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate, as always, the donation. Do appreciate that. Emily says that would be, she's asking, would that be up to DC to change the name of the Air and Space Museum? I think the Smithsonian is an independent organization, so it would not be up to DC to do that, but Smithsonian Institute, whatever the official name is, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that either. So who knows? You guys have to go to France and celebrate Bastille Day. No smoking, much safer for Chillie with the oxygen tank. Yeah, I can't be around smoking, that's for sure. I could blow up. I could explode. Emily says she loved Halifax and St. John. I would probably take a train to the ship if I sail out of New York. Yeah, from Pittsburgh, that's not a bad shot. I would consider that now from Lynchburg, because Lynchburg to Washington, Washington, New York. I would consider that as well. I want to go on a train. That's probably going to be my first travel will be on a train. Of course, they've got all oxygen banned now. So anyway, Emily says, Peggy's coat, I love it, but it was cold. Actually, I had lovely weather up there when I went. Jason says he hates the casino bar. Scam donations. Hopefully your channel blows up. Nah. Oh, you're talking about numbers. Yeah, by the way, I'm going to go past sail right past 2,300 by this weekend, I hope. I'm 2293 today. So we'll hit another little milestone this weekend. Let's see. Emily says you were allowed to walk out on the rocks by the beach in Peggy's Cove. That was quite an adventure for me. We had cold weather, but not foggy. Yeah, Peggy's Cove. I've been to Peggy's Cove as well. I've been up there a couple times, but just once out of New York, and it was marvelous, just marvelous, lovely place. All right, guys, that's going to wrap me up. I have to go for pulmonary therapy here early this afternoon. So I got to get ready for that, for the torture chamber. So I will see everybody back here tomorrow morning. If you're not doing anything on Saturday, stop in at 11 o'clock. I'll be here. Same time, same place. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.